Okay, I'm gonna have our Eagle staff come on up. All right, hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Jim Ostrowski. I work in the Environmental Support Division at the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I'm just gonna help moderate tonight's meeting a little bit. Basically, you're here for a public information meeting and hearing for EQ Detroit Incorporated, doing business as US Ecology Detroit South. This is a public meeting for the draft hazardous waste renewal license. Basic housekeeping things for tonight. For our people that are online, we're got here in person, but we also have about how many people are online, Natalie? About 24 people online viewing this as well. For people that are online, the lines are going to stay muted for right now. If you have a question, you can type it in the Q&A box on your Zoom toolbar, or you can click the raise hand icon if you want to voice your question. We are recording tonight's meeting, just like we do with all our public meetings, and we'll have it posted either tomorrow or shortly after. So we like to get it up on our YouTube channel fairly quickly. We also have interpreters with us tonight, so if anybody needs interpreter services, whether it be Arabic or Bengali, they are at the back of the room, right outside the door. You can speak with them and they can help get you a headset and help you. A couple other, I think that's it all. Yeah. So I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves. And hopefully your mics work okay. If not, just a couple things for the agenda before we have them introduce themselves. We're going to start out today with a short presentation and then a time for Q&A from you all, both here and online. And then after done with the Q&A, we will go into our official public hearing. And so the first part's kind of informal, where we just do a presentation, Q&A. Second part's more formal, where if you want to make a comment tonight for the record, you're going to fill out one of these comment cards. You're going to give it to one of our staff, and they're going to bring it up to me, and I will let you know when it's time for official comments. I will call your name, and you'll come up to the microphone and make your comment for the record. Don't worry, I'll remind you again. So right now, we're just starting out with the more informal part of tonight's meeting. So go ahead, guys, introduce yourselves.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Todd Sinda. I'm the District Inspector for US Ecology Detroit South.
Hi, I'm Stanley Kilgore. I'm the permit engineer for US Ecology Detroit South.
Hi, I'm Sean Shields. I'm the environmental quality analyst for Detroit South.
Hi, my name is Sam Timmons. I'm the project geologist for Detroit South.
Okay, you want to say anything?
Thanks, Sam. I just want to welcome everyone. My name is Tracy Cascabetti. I'm the division director for the Materials Management Division. So in addition to these staff here, we have a number of staff in the room, including someone from our quality division who can help us with any questions about our quality. We got Kimberly Tyson, who's the decision maker on the license. So we just really appreciate the time you guys took to be here. I know many of you were at our meeting a couple of weeks ago, last month. Which was more, which the entire night was just question and answer. And like Jim said, tonight is about answering some of your questions, but then also getting those formal comments. This is really our opportunity to hear from you. You've had the opportunity to review the license if you've wanted to do that. And you can either make your comments here tonight, or we've also got information on how you can submit those comments in writing if you've got something more than what you'd like to say on the phone tonight. So thanks again, and let's just get started. We want to make good use of the time.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you all for coming. So for anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about US Ecology Detroit South. The facility is located at 1923. The facility is located at 1923 Frederick Street at the intersection of St. Alban and East Berry Street. I have the facility outlined here in red. The facility has been used for waste management dating back to 1984. The first hazardous waste operating license was issued in 2003 for treatment and storage at this site. Specifically, they are allowed to store waste in containers and tanks. The green here is the container storage area. The pink is where the tanks are located for both treatment and storage. And then the This blue outline here are used oil processing tanks. They are inspected by Todd and regulated in Report 111 and 121, but they are not a part of the hazardous waste licenses. They do not process hazardous waste. And as part of this application, no new proposed operations or increased capacity have been requested. Just a quick overview of the license renewal process. Once the renewal application comes in, we distribute it to the technical staff for our reviews. That's the project team you see here, but also air quality division, maybe the EPA. And then once we've completed our review and done, determine that the license is technically adequate, we'll prepare a draft license, which is where we are now. And we'll come to the public and do this hearing and the public comment period to get some feedback on things you like, things you don't like about this draft license, anything you feel like you're going to take into consideration. At which point we will review and respond to all those comments. And based on that review, we will make a final decision. So there are roughly 30 facility-specific license conditions that are being proposed here. So those are conditions that are not part of our standard boilerplate. They're listed on the fact sheets that were printed out and available on the table. Of those 30, we're going to kind of highlight 15-ish tonight. But some of them incorporate other ones. So in terms of the waste analysis plan, they are doing improved fingerprinting, which is the process of verifying that the waste that is coming on site is what it's supposed to be and that they're allowed to treat it or store it. Additionally, there will be an annual audit of treatment effectiveness happening. The facility will be doing their own audit, and then people will be coming on site, and we'll be doing our own audit as well to verify the results. Additionally, in terms of inspections, there are new annual tank inspection requirements, including a minimum thickness that must be maintained at all times for the walls of those tanks, to help keep track of integrity over the years, and ensure that if it gets too thin, repair or replacement can occur. Additionally, annual secondary containment inspections will be occurring. All the concrete containment pads, which are coated with a Zypex coating to prevent spills, will have to be cleaned off, and that coating will have to be thoroughly inspected to ensure that there's no cracks, gaps, anything like that. Engineering plans, the tanks in the chemical fixation building are going to be replaced and upgraded. These tanks will have rounded bottoms to better work for treatment, and they will also have an additional steel liner in them for better. Additionally, the closure plan, we required soil sampling for specific areas of this facility at the time of closure, such as underneath the chemical fixation building and the rail container area. We've also requested that the facility perform enhanced communication with the Detroit Fire Department to ensure that if something were to occur, fire department is ready and prepared to address the matter. Ambient air monitoring, there has been a new ambient air monitoring station installed downwind of the facility, which is closer to where the residential homes are. And the facility will be upgrading sampling equipment there for improved accuracy, including new pumps and things like that. Lastly, for groundwater monitoring, they will be establishing a site-wide monitoring network, including PFAS investigation that will be done. And lastly, the perimeter drain that was found last summer will be operated and monitored to prevent these pressure buildups to avoid any integrity issues in those tanks. So if the license is renewed, Eagle staff will continue to do the following. We're going to continue to inspect the site quarterly, at the very least, if not more. So 4 times a year, we'll audit the facility's operating records, including training records for staff, waste batches, the manifests, acceptances, things of that sort, to make sure that they're following the procedures. If there's any sampling events that are scheduled, we'll not only go on site to observe, but we'll also would sample if needed to verify the results. So if there's like that PFAS sampling, for example, we're planning on being out there. And we'll review any proposed modifications or changes to the facility. If you're signed up for the facility mailing list, which if you came in and signed those papers outside, which should be, you will receive notification for any of these modifications that occur. And one thing we want to note in terms of compliance, we are aware that Air Quality Division last week confirmed nuisance odors in the area. A VN was issued today for that. Sorry, violation notice was issued today for that. And we're working with Air Quality Division to determine any additional next steps in terms of this. That's all I have. Now we'll move into the question and answer session.
All right, thanks, Tiana. Right now, we're going to go into some time for questions and answers. So if any of you have a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand and I'll come over to you and you can use a microphone to ask it so people can hear you. Just want to give an opportunity. Don't be shy. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Yes, sir. There you go.
Yeah, it was great meeting with you guys last time, and thank you so much for releasing the voter feasibility study, which I believe is a huge part of the consent agreement. And I think most of the people that are here today are here because of the odors that are really hard to live with. Having read the feasibility study, it seems that there's only a 60% efficiency rate in actually getting rid of those toxic VOCs, and they do bring up 40 different VOCs that are actually created as the process is going on. The odor feasibility study mentions a lot of potential solutions to mitigating odors, and I really applaud everything you're adding to the license to make it more efficient and stuff, but there's really nothing that is related to odor, mitigating odors and the proposals that the odor feasibility is set. So I was wondering if that would be something that would be added to the license in any way? Because what's the point of doing a study that shows that there's huge improvements to be made if there aren't any improvements being proposed?
Yeah, thank you. Tracy, do you want to go ahead?
No, thank you. I appreciate that question. So as you heard Tiana say, our Air Quality Division issued a violation notice today. What that violation notice does is says that, the folks that are in charge of determining whether or not those odors are offsite or nuisance level, they've confirmed those nuisance conditions. Their violation notice asks for a response within a certain amount of time, say, what happened here, give us the analysis. The waste program, the program that all of us work in the hazardous waste and solid waste program, we're also drafting a violation notice that'll go out either tomorrow or early next week. And that violation notice says that the odor management plan that was required under the last consent order, that what we recognize they've done quite a bit to improve waste screening and all of that, but it is not enough. And we are asking for more to be done, and we're asking for engineering controls to come on. We recognize they've done a feasibility study. We're asking them to start implementing that feasibility study and give us a schedule for installing that sort of engineering control.
Would that be included in the license?
Tiana, isn't there a condition in the license that gives to the odor management plan?
Yes, so we did add a facility specific condition for incorporating the odor management plan. So as long as it's being taken care of under the odor management plan, it should be included, especially since if we're not sure when the schedule will be received, so.
So we haven't received that response yet, right? We verified it. I mean, the timing is tough, right? We recognize we don't have a lot of answers for you tonight. The violation notice just went out. I just want to give you guys the indication of the direction that we're going, right? We recognize that they've done, all of the sort of operational practices that they can optimize, and that has not been enough to control this, and it's time to take the recommendations of the feasibility study and put in some structural engineering, air pollution control equipment.
Okay, got another question over here, sir. I'm coming over. Yes.
How much, DNR is Waste Management, is this organization doing to make sure that there aren't these air quality controls? Are they studying that so it doesn't exist from the product that they're doing?
Can you try to rephrase that? I don't understand the key on.
Research and development, to develop a process so you don't have the contamination of the air. And what kind of money are they spending on this? The company?
So I'm not in a position to speak to what kind of money the company is spending. But in addition to the hazardous waste license, they also have an air permit, and if we want, John can speak to the air permit. But the air permit, was based on modeling and the emissions, that are expected to leave the facility. And as I understand it, their recorded emissions are far below their modeled limits, right? The operational controls that we talked about are all the things they're doing to minimize odors before they start, right? Because that's obviously the goal, right? The goal is not to control it on the back end. The goal is to prevent it by knowing what's coming in and knowing how that needs to be treated. I'm not sure, maybe part of your question is, how do we engineer ourselves out of needing hazardous waste management also, right? I mean, that goes to the folks that are generating hazardous waste, right? And in the manufacturing sectors and the environmental cleanup sectors, how are we reducing hazardous waste that's being generated, right? That's part of our program as well. In addition to going out and inspecting this facility, we go on, we inspect the facilities that are generating waste, and we work with them on ways to minimize the hazard of that waste or minimize the amounts that they're generating also.
Yeah, got two questions here. I know you got one person.
In the feasibility study, there was reference to, the creation of VOCs through the mixing of the different components that they're remediating in the facility. And then there was mention of how water-based controls don't typically function. And so they were typically gonna use a, like a dust-based, like a particle-based, thing. Is there any reference in the license to like wash in, wash out, or any kind of controls? Like, I'm understanding that water can't be used in the actual building because of what else is going on with the mixing and whatever, but in the perimeter of the building and the entrance and exits to the building, was there any kind of discussion about like a mixed approach so that vehicles and their equipment aren't coming out of that building covered in dust? That's part of the hazardous waste process.
So are you referring to a, like a wash station for when the trucks leave the building?
Yes, there any kind
Currently, there's nothing like that. The building is under negative pressure. And that's part of their air quality division permit. They have to verify that annually, make sure that nothing escapes the bay doors when one bay door is open. But as far as like washing the equipment or the trucks when they leave the site, I don't think there's anything in the license or proposed. So if that's, something you want us to consider, please provide that comment.
Yeah, I mean, is that in reference to the 60% number in the feasibility study about the controls?
No, I think what they were looking at was potentially using a scrubber as one of the control technologies. So this facility does have a scrubber on their oil processing. I got that right, John? So their oil processing is not part of the licensing. They have a scrubber to control emissions from those oil tanks. And that's just a process where they basically drip water through a column and the air exits through it. And it's the water's supposed to capture the contaminants before it exhausts to the air. I think what you're referencing is they evaluated that as one of the potential options for controlling odors from that building.
Thanks, Tom. And yeah, so comments like that, that's something, the official comment part, that's what you want to say there.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say there are other facilities, they're different facilities, but some facilities do have wash stations. I don't know how feasible it would be to do at this particular location, but That's the first I've heard of something like that for you.
Good. Do you have a question?
I often, I need to bicycle through the area there, either up St. Aubin or on Ferry Street, and I usually I check the wind direction before I plan my route. You know, and if the air monitoring is downwind, like the wind can blow in every direction. And, so that's one comment, and then really my question is about, the ponding of dark liquid along the curb line of the facility. Does anybody know what that is? That liquid is there, has been there for months, and even when it hadn't rained for weeks in August, that liquid is always at the curb line. Does anybody know what that is?
So this was brought up to me during the last meeting outside of, you know, the public forum. And Sam might be able to better describe this, but typically if there were liquids outside of, are you talking outside of the facility boundary on Ferry?
Right at the curb,
Okay,
by the sidewalk, where the sidewalk meets the curb,
Yeah.
there's
and, you know, this facility has an extensive environmental monitoring program. But typically, before we would just start sampling a puddle or something on the side of the road from the facility, we would start, you know, at the facility itself on their property, and then move out to determine if there's material escaping the facility. Sam, I don't know if you have something to add as far as environmental investigations or monitoring, but, you know, if we were to sample that puddle and it came back with whatever constituents, we wouldn't have a straight line to point it to that facility just because of the industrial surroundings. You know, we've got the former incinerator site across the street. We've got another waste management facility across the street. There's other industries in the area, so we wouldn't, even if it had something, we wouldn't be able to necessarily pinpoint it's from them. Sam, you got anything that?
how could, we as residents, be assured that, like, that's not some hazardous thing, even if it's not related to this specific license?
Yeah, and so I agree with everything Todd said. What I can add on to that is, as you guys probably know, and as we've discussed, we are implementing like a groundwater monitoring plan, and we do along Ferry Street have a series of monitoring wells. Off the top of my head, I want to say at least 3 that go across the property boundary right there. But as far as, I'm not familiar, or at least in my visits to the site, I haven't personally noticed that. Sometimes I don't come in along Ferry Street, though, I'll come in along different directions. But kind of as Todd said, if there is cooling water outside the facility, without looking into it further, I don't know if we could necessarily attribute it to them or their operation, but having said that, I'm more than happy to like give my contact information or have further discussion. And obviously, you know, we're not able to make it out there as frequent as you guys are, but you know, any sort of documentation, photos, stuff like that, I'm happy to talk with you guys after and give out my contact information, and it's certainly something we can look into a little more and maybe have discussions with the facility to see if maybe something they are doing is causing that issue kind of right along Ferry Street, and go from there and see what that might be. So, but as you said, you know, if, yeah, cooling water over long periods of time, definitely something that we, you know, work with and look into.
And I was just gonna add, I know a lot of you are familiar with the pollution emergency alerting system. If you believe this is a release or something is happening that's an endangerment to human health and the environment, you know, please call that number so it can get the right triggers for people to investigate it. I was not aware of this until this last meeting, and I personally haven't noticed it, but I'm gonna take a look next time I'm out at the facility. So if anybody needs the PEAS number, 1-800-292-4706.
Thanks, Todd. And so Sam and Todd, like you were saying, if these, they're in the community all the time. So if they do see something, they can take a picture, something like that, and send you an email. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to, and my contact information might not be listed up there. I've got business cards. I'm more than happy to give that to anybody. And so yeah, like I said, we're not able to, I haven't, there's so much to pay attention to when I go out there, so admittedly, I haven't noticed it, but again, you guys are able to, keep eyes on the facility much more than we are, so. Please, feel free, I can talk after this, or give out my email and, set up a meeting to discuss, and we can set something up, right, to monitor the situation and see if it's something, resulting from the facility's operations or not, because surely if there is pooling water off-site and that's a result of the facility's operations, that's something we have to account for and make sure it's being followed up on, and so, more than happy to follow up with you guys on that.
All right, thanks. Yeah,
I ask these guys to elaborate.
sure, yeah, go ahead.
In relation to this, so recognizing that we've not noticed it on our inspections, but we're definitely gonna keep an eye out for it. If any of you have pictures of it, happy to look at it tonight. Tanner, could you talk a little bit about how the facility is engineered? My understanding is that like any rain that falls on the facility is captured on site. So, we wouldn't expect that like rainwater or anything is running out of process areas and down the driveway into the road, right? So could you talk a little bit about the site engineering and stormwater control?
Yeah, so all the containment areas and the tanks, they all have secondary containment around them. It's regular concrete with curbing around it, but all of it is coated with Zypex to make it impervious, so nothing's leaching through. But the berms are there to ensure that there's no run on or run off from the facility. So if rain were to occur or if a spill were to happen, it's to keep all that water outside, and the facility is required within 24 hours of noticing pooling water to remove it, and that's one thing that Todd goes out and inspects to make sure that all of those areas are clean, free of liquids, that if there is pooling liquid, that it's taken care of, and that is something that's been previously cited in violation notices. So it is something we keep an eye on.
Sienna, what about street sweeping and street washing? Are they doing that in the traffic hearings? I know the street sweeper.
Like the city,
No, so.
the facility, not that I know of.
Question was street sweeping, right? Just okay.
Oh, yes, the question was if there's street sweeping happening on site.
There is, but there is street sweeping that occurs as part of the facility, but I don't think that's written into the license specifically. It might be part of the air quality division permit for fugitive dust control, but it's not part of that hazardous waste license.
Okay, I know, we get a question over here, somebody. But it's not. Okay, yeah, I think I'm dealing with something else, okay. There you go.
Apologize. Beautiful child. I know that when the incinerator was having a lot of issues, that there was an increased, monitoring of the air quality, and I'm wondering. I'm wondering if through this permit, if you consider that, a chance of increasing the monitoring of air quality, to more regular, like every 10 days, anything similar to what the incinerator had?
Good, get that monitoring frequency.
Yeah, so as part of one of the license conditions includes a compliance schedule for the submitted and improved ambient air monitoring programs. They're making changes to both like the sampling equipment and methodology. We're committed to putting another downwind air monitor, and previously we were looking at increasing the frequency 1 in 12 days at a minimum. The frequency is still up for determination based on what we see here or public comment. It's certainly something that we're factoring into the decision as well as the parameters that it's for.
So something in terms of monitoring, that would be something, maybe a official comment, could make a comment related to that frequency. That was your sign. Very good, thank you. All right, back over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw earlier that you had, up there, contact with the fire department, but I believe they process flammable material in the facility. And so I would just, my concern or question is about, any kind of plan of action. Should there be a fire? Should there be an explosion? You know, there could be any kind of internal problem that causes a fire. There could be fireworks enter the facility or stray bullets or something. I believe they have exposed containers of, I don't know what they have in them, but, you know, so that's just my question is like, what is like an action plan, an emergency action plan? Especially in light of some more, bigger news events, you know, like I think there was an oil plant in Mississippi or something that blew up recently, showered the neighborhood with oil for like Palestine, Ohio, that train derailment. They had to evacuate the whole town. So what is kind of the emergency action plan for the event of a disaster?
Yeah, so the facility has a contingency plan for any accidents or catastrophes like that. In terms of the flammables, they have to keep them at least 50 feet away from the fence line. The entire facility is fenced in, there's 24-hour security and surveillance, and there's only one gated entry off of Curry Street. So that's how in terms of like the flammables and things like that, that would be managed, it'd all be managed under the contingency plan. The contingency plan outlines like communication with the fire department and things like that. And part of it was we wanted them to, we're requesting the facility engage with the fire department more and ensure that on at least an annual basis, they reach out and request maybe the fire department do a tabletop exercise or come out to the facility to look around and make sure the fire department's aware of the layout of the site to make sure that if something were to happen, they know exactly what type of waste is stored here or here, and they know all the evacuation routes. So,
Giovanni?
Yeah, just, what was it? Well, one thing, just a comment about, the facility being secured by fencing. There still could be projectiles or just an internal problem that could cause a fire. But, but you made me think of one point, but, oh yeah, would that be written up in the permit? Would be, because you said you're requesting that they would have more interaction with the fire department. Is that just something you'd say to them, or would that be like in the language of the permit?
yep, that. Yep, sorry, that is written into the license, and the contingency plan is also attached to the license as well. So that's all something that they'll, once the permit is issued, they'll have to abide by. And if they're not, they could get cited for it.
Yeah, so that is publicly available and anybody can look at the contingency plan, the plan.
Yep, that's all available on our website. It's also at, the, main branch of the Detroit Public Library, and any of our offices who have access to those.
Right.
I just wanted to add that contingency plan requires them to notify the local authorities if there was a major release or a fire, an explosion, and then the locals are the ones that are in charge for determining evacuations or next steps and immediate environmental monitoring or, you know, air monitoring for if there was a release. So the contingency plan is a requirement of the license, and then they have to follow certain steps as part of that if there was a release.
Okay. Come back over here, sir. Excuse me.
Just out of curiosity, does Homeland Security monitor this place? Because the way you're talking, it could become a place where it could terrorize the neighborhood and actually bring death and destruction by people who want to do harm to our country.
I don't know the answer to that.
Because it sounds like it's a bomb.
I mean, there's a lot of facilities in the Metro Detroit area that have ignitable materials on their property. They're not the only one. I wouldn't think that the Department of Homeland Security is involved in this facility, but I can't say that for sure.
Okay.
I have a two-part question considering in regards to time and the timeline. One of them is broad and one is specific. The first one is, I'm a little surprised at the rush of this process. We saw each other 3 weeks ago. The odor feasibility study got released to the public a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. It's been a lot of, things to process and take in. So we actually have some people, some elected officials, either citywide or countywide, or maybe even statewide, that would like to comment, but they don't really have the time to right now. They have to get it through certain committees and stuff like that, and they would at least need, 2 or 3 weeks, if not a month, to comment, to be able to comment. Is there any way that we can actually push the commenting period, out just a little bit? And, the second question is, kind of related to that, which is, you know, the permit has been, defunct since 2008. The consent agreement just happened recently. Some of the rules of the consent agreement, like we just talked about earlier, like the odor feasibility study and, even the SEP, which we won't even get into, haven't even bear fruit in any way. So it seems that there's a lot of moving parts that haven't been resolved, yet we're being asked to make haste comments about potential relicensing. And one last little comment in regards to that was, I guess I'll leave it there.
Okay, once address that question, especially on time on the comment period.
You want to talk about time, Tanner, or I don't know when the license went on.
For extension,
No, when did the license go on public comment? When was it available for public review?
the public comment period started July 31st.
July 31st.
So it's a 45-day public comment period.
In the
And
middle of the summer.
Yeah, yes. If you'd like, I mean, happy to take the comment if anyone's requesting extension of public comment period, that it's not an unusual request, and that is something we can evaluate if there's a reason to do so. The one thing I do want to point out about the benefit of reissuance, you did point out that the license has been expired since I think it was 2008, it was issued in 2003. My take on this is a much better license, right? This is a much more protective, much more rigorous license. It includes groundwater monitoring that we didn't have before. It includes approved waste screening procedures that we didn't have before. And we think that we're furthering environmental protection, public health protection under this license compared to what they're operating under now. If we were to extend this another year to evaluate different issues, or if they would continuing operating under the license that was written in 2003.
and in terms of the consent order, none of the requirements from that are going away. A lot of them have been reincorporated into this license, so that at some point, if they complete all their obligations in the consent order and the consent order is closed, those requirements are still existent in the license. So it's not that everything has to be finished before the license is issued. It's also to be ongoing. The facility's still gonna have to continue with the upgrade to the tanks and everything that was promised in the consent order.
Okay. Anybody on this side of the room have any questions? Natalie, do we have any questions online from anybody? No, just a reminder that if you're viewing it online, if you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A box on your Zoom toolbar. Or you can click the raise hand icon and we'll open up the line so you can verbally ask your question to the group here. All right, over here, anybody questions? All right. That is fine then. If you guys are okay with it, I think what we'll do is we can take a little break. And then we can start the formal comment process, which just let us get reset really quick. And I will open it back up again. And that's gonna be the time when we take your official comments. So if you want to make an official comment for the record, make sure you've got one of those little attendance cards out front when you checked in. Just put your name on there and check yes that you want to make a comment, and then bring it to one of our staff up front here. And what we'll do is I'll call your name and you're gonna come up and have a few minutes to make a comment. And we'll just be listening and we're taking it for the record. So let's give it about 5 minutes or so, and we'll come right back and take your comment. If anybody's looking for the bathroom, by the way, too, those are all the way on the other side of the building, so you have to go out and around where that big TV screen is where you first came in. That's where that is. Thank you. Oh, did you? Okay, all right, so we're back here in about 5 minutes, okay?
Hey, Jim, I just wanted to add, if anybody comes up with questions, they just want to talk to us, after the hearing, we're gonna be in the back. Just grab one of us and we're happy to answer any more questions you might have.
Just a reminder, if you want to make an official comment, fill out one of those attendance cards. And make sure we have it up here on front. Thank you.
So, I mean, it's not.
Do we have any cards?
50%,
I haven't
but
gotten
it's not,
I'll check.
it is, so all 6 tanks will be completely grilled.
Well, we're all, we're not gonna get how much.
Because, yeah, because it's a different tank shape, but I would consider that now.
Right now, they're operating for free.
Yes.
And they've had more, they've had fewer violations since the time they took that.
Yes.
And there was new violations.
Air quality. Yep. So that's just,
Allison got
so that is just,
it. Allison brought them up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Oh, sure. Do you have any?
You've got the cards. Sorry. I had one job.
All right. Natalie, are you ready?
Okay, everybody, we are going to get started again with the public hearing, so, it's kind of noisy, so if you guys don't mind closing the door, thanks, appreciate it. All right, so official hearings are pretty official, and what we do is we start out with a official, public hearing statement, which Kevin's going to read off for us, so once you read this long statement, we'll get started with your comments, so go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, and just a reminder, I know Todd said it, just a reminder, I know Todd already mentioned it at the end of the Q and A there, but we do have our staff standing in the back there, if anybody would like to speak to them before or after the comment period, feel free to grab one of them, and you guys can step outside and chat, so. With that, I just wanted to say good evening to everybody, welcome to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. This is on the draft hazardous waste management facility operating license for EQ Detroit Inc. Doing business as US Ecology Detroit South for the facility located at 1923 Frederick Street in Detroit, Michigan. My name is Kevin Bott. I'm the supervisor for the permitting and program support unit for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, in the Materials Management Division, otherwise known as MMD, in the hazardous waste section. Tonight, I'll be serving as the hearings officer. With me, as well as Kimberly Tyson. She's the MMD's hazardous waste section manager, and she will be the decision maker for the draft license. We will hear all of your comments on the application and the draft license this evening. So in addition to myself and Kimberly, we will have Jim Ostrowski, who met already. He'll be managing the comment cards, the microphone, and then the speaker time during the comment period. And then we've got Natalie Brown over on the computer who's going to be managing the comments received from attendees participating online. So a little bit of background, I did want to provide some context for this public hearing. US Ecology Detroit South submitted a hazardous waste license application on September 11th, 2008. EGLE conducted an administrative completeness review and an extensive technical review to evaluate compliance with Part 111. US Ecology Detroit South was provided with itemized reports regarding the technical review and subsequently revised the application, resulting in an ultimate technical adequacy determination that was issued on July 31st, 2025. On August 13th, 2025, and then just prior to this meeting, we did hold public informational meetings to answer questions from the public about the facility and the draft license. So as far as the draft license goes, the draft license that's before you today includes standard conditions as well as facility specific conditions, which Tiana had touched on a little bit earlier. So there are things such as monitoring programs specific to the waste analysis plan, the facility's tank and container inspection schedule, and the air and groundwater monitoring among several other things. So the process design capacities and limitations in the draft license are consistent with the existing hazardous waste license, as are the general waste that the facility may accept. So with that, I'd like to formally begin the public hearing at 6:55 p.m. here on September 4th, 2025. Officially, the intent of this hearing is to obtain public comment on the proposed draft license. Unlike the public meetings on the draft license that we've had previously, there will be no question and answer session during this hearing. You will be providing your comments, and we'll be, taking them into the record. So all in-person attendees are asked to complete the attendance cards, which were at the sign-up table out there. Feel free to grab one if you have not gotten one already and hand them to one of our staff. So if you would like to speak, please fill out that card and indicate on the card by checking the box that you would like to speak. The information on the cards will be used to update our facility mailing list, and identify those persons wishing to comment first here tonight. Virtual participants will have an opportunity to speak after the in-person attendees. Their registration information will be used to update the facility mailing lists. They get future notifications. The online Eagle moderator, Natalie, will identify those persons wishing to provide comment. We will ask that everybody limit their comments to 3 minutes so that everybody has a chance to speak. Speakers are asked to state and spell their full name before providing comment, and provide a written copy of their comments if they would like, or if possible, at a later time. The hearing will be formally closed after all of our participants indicating that they wanted to speak have done so. And with that, I would now like to begin accepting public comments. I'll hand it off to Jim.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. One thing I just want, Kimberly, can you introduce yourself as well? Just make sure people know who you are.
Well, good evening. My name is Kimberly Tyson. I'm the manager for the hazardous waste section. And so in our section is what we're doing the permitting. We have staff back there that did technical review. And so tonight I just want to listen to your comments before we can make a final decision on the application.
All right, thanks, Kimberly and Kevin. And they'll be up here listening to your comments as well as the rest of the staff that are here today with us. Just a reminder that if you want to make a public comment, an official comment tonight, please fill out one of these attendee cards. I've got several of them here. I'll be calling your names up in just a second. And again, a reminder, if you're online watching and you want to make a comment, you can either type your comment into the Q&A box, make sure you write the word comment and type your comment in and submit it. Or if you'd like to verbally make your comment online, you can click the raise hand icon. That'll let us know, and Natalie will let me know. We'll unmute your line so we can hear it here tonight. Is there anybody on the phone only, Natalie? Okay, if anybody was on the phone only, they could hit #2 to make their comment. All right, with that, just a reminder, I'm going to call up some names here, and when you step up to the microphone, just make sure you speak clearly. You might have to step kind of close to the microphone so we can hear you. Repeat your name because it's likely I may get it wrong. So repeat your name and any association you might be affiliated with. All right, so I'm going to call the name, and I'm also going to call the next person on deck so you can kind of move close to the mic and be near it. So the first person I have here is identified as Mr. D. So Mr. D, if you're here, you can come right on up here. All right, and I do have a timer up on the screen that indicates how much time you have, 3 minutes. So when you start, I'll just start the timer. Go ahead, sir.
Didn't know how long allow me to be first. But, I am Mr. D. 20711 Grafton, Tortoise. We are here to, we are very concerned about the renewing of these licenses. Grafton, Tortoise, and other organizations in our community have been working with, not necessarily, I would say Eagle, but it's Eagle, this has been Republic. We not have a good rapport with them. We have been working very hard to try to get some things settled, but it just don't seem like it's going that way. We feel like we probably just got another mission. It's not what the community wants. The community are very spoke out loud. They're going in another direction. We understand there has been a change in management and positions over there. We are very concerned about community, the new positions or the new movement that they are making. They're not living up to the promises or the things that they said they were going to do within our community. So we want to bring very good light to that. The last meeting that we came to, we became aware that Eagle had sent Republic back to talk to the community. Republic haven't came back and talked to the community. We are very upset with that. We have reached out to Republic to talk to our community, and they send us back a text about what for. So we don't understand what's going on, but we want to get some matters. So we felt that we need to take this up to the bigger chains and the bigger bosses, get some answers to what's going on and get some resolution.
All right, thanks for your comments. Okay, next person up is identified as Miss D. And then after that, Stephanie Chang.
Could I just please remind speakers to talk as closely as possible to the microphone? It's a little hard for the folks online to be able to hear. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Good evening. I'm Miss D from the 4820711 Grassroots Detroiters also. Our community is very concerned about the lack of honesty and follow through from Republic. Before we had a really good rapport with Mr. Russ Naki. We were really getting somewhere. There were a lot of promises made to the community and we felt like things were working well. After he left, everything that was promised to us has pretty much gone out the window. They pretty much stole our program. With the S&P, they were supposed to come in and do community projects. It turned from investing with the groups in their projects to them taking all of the money and making their own program. But the program that they came up with Habitat for Humanity would exclude most of the people in the community from even receiving the help. And it's a grassroots Detroiters program. It was very disrespectful. We spoke to them beforehand about not stealing the program and our ideas, and that in turn is exactly what they're here. So we're just not trusting them. If they're doing this now, we can only imagine what they will do once they get their permit. We were really on a good page and we don't understand what happened to that. So before you guys move forward with granting this permit, we would really like to get some things settled within the community with Republic because the community is really not trusting them and they're, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, next up, we have State Senator Stephanie Chang. Then after that, it's Mike Williams.
Good evening. Thanks so much to Eagle for holding this hearing today. And also thank you so much to all the residents who are here today who are making their voices heard. I think that type of engagement is really important. My name is Stephanie Chang. I'm the state senator for Senate District 3. And I have a couple things to say, and I'll probably do some written comments a little bit later on. But wanted to highlight, I think, the concern that many of us have about just the repeated violations that have happened at this facility. There's a long history now of even just thinking about the past 5 years, dozens plural of violations, and did not know about the violation notice that was issued today until I walked in the door. And it's really alarming, especially knowing that these violations are across multiple divisions of Eagle, and in some cases, multiple violations over the course of time. And so I think that as you're considering this permit, I hope that you'll consider the track record of this organization, and especially with regard to all of these violations. So I understand that in the permit, there's not necessarily an expansion of the capacity in terms of the tanks, but what I am concerned about, based on a conversation that I had a couple minutes ago, is the fact that although you're going to be going back to sort of 6 tanks fully operating, with the 3 current tanks that you have that are supposed to be sort of new and improved over the previous tanks, there's already been violations with what's existing now. So I think to echo some of the community members that spoke before, it's hard, I think, for community members and officials like us to be able to trust that there's going to be a level of compliance when there's been a history of non-compliance, even with what we currently have, when they're not even at full capacity. So I also want to reiterate what someone mentioned prior to this hearing, but in the information session, about can we consider increased monitoring? Can we also talk about increased enforcement? Because clearly I think that the penalties that are being issued are not serving as a deterrent. So there are ways to really, think about increasing what that enforcement looks like. Lastly, this is more for the residents than for Eagle, but I wanted to make sure that folks are aware that recently the Michigan legislature, we reintroduced the Protecting Overburdened Communities Act. And I think that this process really highlights why that act is needed. What the Protecting Overburdened Communities Act would do was it require Eagle to really look at the impact on health from various sources and various pollutants. And look at that impact on health and especially in environmental justice communities that are already overburdened by multiple facilities. I'm troubled by the fact that folks talked about puddles along the street and it was referenced the other facilities in the past or now. Well, that's an example of a community that has seen the overburdened nature of this type of pollution. And so it speaks to just how badly we need that legislation. The last point I'll make is that in the information session, we talked about the fact that there is the hazardous waste piece here, there's been the groundwater violations, there's been the air quality violations, and how the fire department separately also would be involved in terms of emergency situations, and the city has its future to dust. So everything is disconnected in terms of the way that we look at this facility, and I would encourage us to get creative and try to think of things in a more cohesive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Shane. Next up, we have Mike Williams. And then after Mike Williams is Dave Roberts. So,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Michael Williams. I am a resident. I live downwind of the facility, and my main comment is that I would prefer for the facility to not be continued licensed to continue to operate. That would be what I would prefer the outcome to be. But I also, assuming that they will get the license renewed, feel like my concerns, one of many concerns is just the potential for an explosion or a fire that would potentially lead to a mass evacuation of the area and could even potentially toxify the land and, you know, whatever. Maybe it could be a long time before people could come back if there was an explosion or something that, and it all blew into the neighborhood. So my comment is to put more concern into mitigating the hazard of there being an explosion, and maybe considering having any flammable material having to be in a contained facility that has a fire suppression and an explosion control device or of some sort. So that is my comment.
All right, thanks, sir. Okay, next up is Dave Roberts, and after Dave Roberts is Melissa Sargent. Go ahead.
Dave Roberts. My comment really echoes what Mike's comment was, and I think the feeling that a lot of my neighbors in the community would prefer that this facility actually be shut down and not operate. I feel like it's an antiquated facility. Sure, they're trying to make some upgrades, but it still is, you know, maybe not the best facility for dealing with these kinds of materials. So that because of the old, you know, because it's an old facility, it's outdated. And so that's, I think, my comment. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Next up is Melissa Sargent, and after Melissa is AP Kennedy. So you can go ahead.
Thank you. Melissa Cooper Sargent. I am a neighbor living in the neighborhood less than a mile away from the facility, and also I'm with the Ecology Center. So I will reiterate what other folks have said, that we really do want the facility to be shut down. For such a hazardous waste facility to be nestled into a neighborhood is not, you don't see this anywhere else. I think it's pretty rare throughout the country that it's so close to where people are living. And agree that, so we would just like to see it shut down, not get its permit renewed. If we are updating its permit, we do want more regulation, more oversight. So I heard Tracy say, you know, we're asking for more engineering controls for odors to prevent the odors. yes, we would want that. We would love more inspections, more than just quarterly, more often inspections. More often to have, more air monitoring inspections, so once every week, once every 12 days, I heard mentioned. We would want, more of that. Also, I wanna say that we are concerned about, PFAS, being trucked in and treated there and just how dangerous those materials are, and just because there's thousands of PFAS chemicals and only a couple of them, less than 10 are even regulated, but that doesn't mean the other ones that are not regulated are not harmful. And there's precursors for, there's certain PFAS that are precursors that create more toxic PFAS, and so the precursors are not regulated, and we're concerned not only about what might be getting into the neighborhood because any PFAS containing material is being moved around. And so if it's being dumped from one container to another, like get in the air, it can get, outside of the facility, but we're also concerned of what's being put into the water, and is going through GLEWA, and we know that they're at this point below whatever limits there are, but there's still a concern that is then going into the Detroit River, which is a source for our drinking water. So there's a lot of concern for us directly in the neighborhood and the odors that we're experiencing, but also beyond. And I will say, I smell, like I saw in what they accept and what they treat, and oils are one of the main things. And there was a day this week, I should have called, the air just smelled thick with oil, like even beyond our neighborhood, the air just smelled like there was oil in the air. So really, in their permit, they're not supposed to have any odors. That's what their permit says, no odors and no inconveniences to the neighbors. And obviously, we're definitely smelling odors, and we're obviously being inconvenienced, and if we're smelling it, it's a VOC or it's something harmful. If we're smelling it, it's getting into our bodies, and so that's what we're concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We're gonna go to AP Kennedy. Before we do that, really quick, just want to remind, because some people came in a little bit late tonight, remind you that we do have interpretive services here today. Our interpreters for Bengali and Arabic are both the back of the room there. Also online, this is being simultaneously interpreted. Okay, Mr. AP Kennedy is next, and then KT Morelli after. So go ahead,
Thanks,
sir.
Paul Kennedy. I live in the neighborhood, and my concern is that there are not enough monitors for the air, because you get calls from us saying that it happens, but you don't get there in time to see it. But if you had enough monitors to gather that data, you could see that data. And you could say, yeah, there are spikes. But right now, unless someone from this organization is living there to say, yeah, I smelled it just like the neighbors, you get there after it's over with. And that's my concern, is that there isn't enough monitors. There should be monitors on every corner. Monitoring the air, there should be some way to monitor the water on every block. We are human beings. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Okay, next up I have KT Morelli. And then after that is Adam Verabel. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Casey Morelli, and I think that the current permit has missed more regular air monitoring. And so it needs to happen more regularly, and also to reevaluate the compounds that are being monitored. Just in the current application, the permit application from 2017, section J, 1F. Sorry, did that on the way. Section J, 1F, environmental assessment revision. It states that all operations at EQD are controlled in such a way that there is absence of dust, odors, and or other inconveniences to local residents. All on-site traffic areas are paved in order to minimize dust. Processing and or reactor tanks and storage silos are fitted with baghouse filters to control emissions from the areas. The active portions, the tank valves, transfer lines, etc., of the above ground tank storage tank form are fully enclosed to control air emissions. The container storage and the loading, unloading area are equipped with an equalization line for emissions and controls from container trucks and unloading. This is all currently false. They have the doors open a lot. There's not enough, of that like air capturing, to equalize the odors from leaving. We've been told repeatedly that hazardous waste operations are going to create odors and they can't control them to satisfy residents. So this permit should be denied or put on hold until residents are satisfied that the odors are no longer a problem. And I forgot to mention that I'm a resident. I live just down the facility as well. And just last week, I thought I had a gas leak inside my house because of how horrible it smelled outside, and I had my windows open. It's not okay. I live about a mile east of the facility too. It's not just like across the street, but the folks that live across the street who aren't here should be of our most concern. So the recommendations of this recent order feasibility study should be fulfilled as a starting point to solving this problem. And if the odors are continuing and the reason that this permit has not been renewed since 2017, why renew it now? So that's what. Why? Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Thanks for the assist out there. All right. Okay, next up, we've got Adam Verville, and then after that, my last one is Martha Calloway. So, oh yeah, you can go ahead and bring that up.
Yeah, Adam Verville, I'm a resident and I live about a mile from the facility. I just wanted to talk about the consent order for a quick second and the fact that there's multiple parts of it that are still in the wind. And reiterate what many members of the community said, that Republic at the beginning of all the negotiations, and mind you, the consent order was brought on by multiple violations for various parts of their operation. Republic initially came to the community and really wanted to work with everyone, it seemed like. And then after some changes of staff and the advancing of this process, that's completely ended. And I would just second everyone who said that. I don't know what the pathway to closing the facility is, but that is the ultimate outcome that I would support. And I understand that that's not what we're here to talk about right now, but for recommendations, I think they did add a fourth monitor as a part of this license, but they, as far as I know, have not increased the sampling times. So I would really like to see the air being sampled more. And secondly, a complete reevaluation of what compounds are sampling for. Because I think in the previous license, it's a very limited list of compounds, and based on what the facility is doing and processing, I think scientists like yourselves would know better, maybe what could be added to that, and then what kind of a frequency would allow for better monitoring of the air quality around the facility. The other piece is the odor feasibility study made several recommendations, and I think, again, why is that not a starting point for this? Like, why are they even allowed to get their license renewed before they've implemented the engineering controls that were recommended to them by their third party that they brought in to tell them what to do? And they told us that they couldn't, it wasn't cost effective, carbon is too expensive. And the odor feasibility study, we've had very little time to look at it. So, there's even more information and more regulations, I think, that could be drawn out of the analysis of the odor feasibility study that's done. And then lastly is just, I think we should consider sequestering all equipment that is used in the ChemFix building. They should not be allowed to bring equipment in and out, such as the excavators. And if they do, there should be engineered controls, because they're using dust to control dust. And they can't use water inside the ChemFix, but they can use water outside the ChemFix, from what I'm hearing. It seems like that would be a possibility, and thank you all for being here and appreciate you guys.
All right, thanks, Adam. So I didn't know how to turn my timer off. Appreciate it. Okay. Next up is Martha Calloway, and I do have some other ones coming in, so thank you. Then after
evening.
Martha is gonna be Eric, Hargender. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Martha Calloway. And I do live in 48207 Grassroots Community. And it's not, I also don't live far from the facility. Okay, right now I would like to speak about the chain of command because at first we did have a good rapport with Mr. Russ. And once he left, things started spiraling out of control a little bit. Things started going a little bit differently. And then also, with this facility that's up there, like the air control monitoring, it needs to be improved. Because we have a lot of people in our neighborhood that's have COPD, asthma. So if you got poor air quality, these people, including myself, we really suffer. And it's hard for us to come outside when you have all these different smells and things going on in the air, because it does affect our breathing. And we could die from this, you know, it all depends on what's floating around in the air that day. And I asked the question about the last meeting, and it was answered very vaguely to me. So when people are really concerned about their health and what they're taking in as far as breathing wise, that has to do with whether you can live or die in a split second or a minute, and you want to answer something, try to beat around the bush kind of vaguely about it, you know. So you're not to be trusted. So therefore, I don't trust them. And I'm quite sure there are other residents in the area with the same problems that I'm going through with. Don't trust them also, especially when it comes to our lives and our health. Thank you.
All right, up next is Eric Hargender, and then after that is Yvonne.
Eric, program reader. We're about 3 streets away on Brandy, and like pretty much everyone else, we very much oppose the renewal of this, but I guess if it were to be renewed, my biggest issues are the air quality and the smells, the odors, because not only do the people who live right there, we have to deal with it. Like last week, I was outside working, and it was so bad that I had to go inside and do some work instead. And it was so bad inside, I didn't want to do anything because it was just so miserable to have to basically smell it while you're doing anything, or maybe you're breathing a little bit heavily. And it's not just residents either, because there is a very popular city park right there. Perry Park is right there. In the summer, there are huge block parties, family reunions. There was just a class reunion there last weekend. And if you live somewhere or you play, like if you're going to a park, you shouldn't have to call because your neighborhood smells. Like that's what we currently have to do. It's like, oh wow, it smells today. I guess we're not gonna do anything outside. Like it shouldn't be like that. So increasing the frequency of the air quality monitoring, and as Adam said, also increase what they are monitoring for, because we really shouldn't have to call. We do, and most of us have it saved in our number, but it shouldn't be like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment.
Hey, Jen. Ooh,
Yeah.
so I think your mic is dead, and maybe mine is overcompensating for your tempo. You might want to switch out. Thank you.
Okay, what?
How's that? Better? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. All right, next up is Yvonne, and then after that, sorry, is Tim. No. Good.
Okay, my name is Yvonne, I'm with 407 residue also, I take a mile for the facility over this park. I never had asthma, I don't know if it's a ability now because of the smells, but it's something and you have to deal with a year or two. Okay, very disappointed with Republicans. Because they made promises they didn't keep for our community. Okay. to clean up and do more monitoring, they did none of that. They just turned tail and went a completely different. We don't trust it for the door. Our health is very, very important. And they still really don't care because they're not breathing the air of the air every day like we have to. So we as community don't trust us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. Next up is Tim Nutt, and then after Tim, it's gonna be Vanessa.
Great, well, my name is Timothy Nutt, I live right by this Ecology South. I just wanted to start with talking about this whole conversation that we've had legal. And I find that it's really based on technicalities and legal issues. But a lot of the things that should be talked about are human aspects and how the community is actually affected by the licenses you guys are issuing. And interestingly enough, in this reissuing of the license, there's been so much work done on the communal aspect of it. There's been a community health impact study. It's never been brought up. If you read it, it's unbelievable how terrible the health of the community members are that live close to that site. There's also been the odor feasibility study that we just talked about. Hasn't been brought up. We have to keep on bringing these things up to Eagle to show that, you know, this does impact the life and health and wellness of residents. But somehow we're stuck in these technical debates about, you know, which hands are tied, what can be done. And also the timeline. I gotta say the timeline, you know, July 31st was when the first draft of the license was brought out. We didn't even know about it until the 4th, and then now the odor feasibility study, you know, it was summer. I think I would hope that we could push the comment period at least 2 weeks, if not a month, to actually have people look at certain things about this new license that really are deep into all this paperwork. I still have a little bit over a minute. One last thing I wanted to mention too is that how is this conversation going? You're saying that you're listening to our comments. You might take them into consideration. You might actually add them to the license. Is there going to be comments on proposed changes to the license? Are we going to see it before there's a decision that's being made or not? And just on that note, I just want to read a little something that from the odor feasibility study. It says follow-up testing of exhaust points from the modified air handling system will be required prior to the selection and installation of VOC equipment in order to appropriately cost and size the final equipment. And then of course they have all these recommendations: the reduction of process fusion of dusted, modification of chemfix, modification of post-capture particle, addition of gas-based controls. None of this which are mentioned in the license. So how does that work? You know, is there a back and forth, or this is it? The ball's in your court, and we'll only hear a yes or no answer? Just confused. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment, Tim. Okay, my last comment card here is for Vanessa. If somebody else wants to make a comment, get one of these cards and just go ahead and raise your hand, and guys in back will grab it. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. Thanks for listening. Just want to underscore all the time that y'all's organization takes from us. I've been making calls for approximately 13 years because I've lived in the neighborhood about that long. And it sucks to leave your house and be like, oh my God, it smells like toxic chemicals. And then it sucks to have to call, and then maybe you have to call 2 numbers. It's like, oh, it's after 5, so I have to call the next number. And depending on the person who's on the other line, it might take anywhere from 2 to 7 minutes to make the call. I don't want to make the call. I don't want to call multiple times every week to let you know that I'm afraid of the toxic chemicals in the air. It's insane. Everyone has been keeping really calm, and I appreciate it, but I'm livid. I've had to cancel multiple dinners that I was going to have in my yard, and which is annoying. But what's terrible is that you're giving children asthma, and people asthma. Didn't have it before. when I've talked to you all at previous meetings, I am given the, information that it's fine, that the air is okay to breathe. But we need to see studies that prove that it's safe to be breathing the levels that you're putting in the air. We need to see independent monitoring that proves that the levels you're putting in the air is at safe levels. What we really need is you to close, but I don't have faith that's gonna happen. So this is what we need to not. Why do we have to be spending all this time? Why do I have to be here right now telling you this? Every week is ruined at least once, except for that like nice year that you weren't putting stuff in the air, like there was a pause. That was great. I don't want to think about you. Nobody here wants to think about it. Everybody here wants to be enjoying their evening with their families, with all the resources that you have. It's just wrong. And I urge anyone who's listening on the side of you guys to just like ask in your heart, would I raise my child in that neighborhood? And if the answer is no, then do your best to make the answer yes for us. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Vanessa. No, we had somebody else here who wanted to make a comment. Thank you. This is for Miss D. Go ahead. And this is my last comment card. So again, if there's anybody else who wants to comment, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. I did come up and make a comment, but as I was sitting in my seat, I just noticed something and I want to make sure I bring it to you guys' attention. There are quite a few people here from our community, Blacks, white, old to young. No one is in favor of this. No one has gotten up here and said that they are in favor of you doing this license. Like several of us have said, we live with this. We raise our children with this. And I just would ask that you consider our lives and our health before you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, asking Natalie, is there anyone online who has indicated they want to make comment, or has any comment been written and online? No? Okay, so on the record, no one online has indicated they want to make a comment. Anyone else here tonight? And I will say it takes a lot of guts to come up here and make a comment in any of these hearings. I moderate a lot of them. It's a lot. So thank you for coming up here. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable making a comment in front of everybody, that's fine. If you'd like, you can write your comment down and give it to anyone on our staff. You can write it on the back of a napkin or on the back of one of these cards that you find. That's an acceptable comment. Also up here online, we have other ways to make a comment as well. So however you want to make it or feel comfortable, that's how we will accept it. With that, I am going to turn it back over to Kevin. And you can read over our closing statement, official statement, and then we'll close up with a couple other small remarks. So go ahead, Kevin.
All right, I just wanted to thank everybody as well for commenting. We do appreciate your comments. All participants are reminded that the public comment period is open until September 15th, 2025. Written comments will be accepted until September 15th at 5 p.m. Via these methods. The second and third bullet points there. So providing them via email or sending them in via US mail to that address. Following the closure of the comment period, we will be publishing a response to comment where we will identify or provide responses to all of our received comments. So that will be published as part of this process prior to license issuance. With that, I am closing the public comment period. It is 7:34 p.m. Thank you all again for coming. I hope you have a great night.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I'm going to let Tracy, that microphone up for me. So I'm gonna let you make a couple of closing remarks.
Thanks, Jim. I just want to echo, again, what you heard. I really appreciate the time that you took tonight to be here. I know that it takes a lot of time away from your families and your lives, so thank you. I do want to address one question. I think it was from Tim about process. So Kevin mentioned this. We collect all of these public comments, the comments we heard tonight, the comments that we received by email or online, and we review all of them. We make a decision as to whether or not any of those comments have an impact on the draft license, whether or not any of the draft license conditions need to be changed in response to comments that you've brought to us. And then then we develop the response to comments where we respond in writing to everything we've heard, right? And we identify any change we've made to the license, and we publish those things together. So when the license is issued, that response to comments makes those changes clear. But what we don't do, we do not public notice the license again. I think Tim's question was, will we see a draft again before you make a decision? And no, but the response to comments will identify any changes that we need to make. But I just want to reiterate what we said in the beginning, right? We've got a draft license in front of you for comment, but we also have an open violation. Right, so the Air Quality Division issued that violation notice today. The waste management programs will be issuing a violation notice tomorrow or Monday. And we need to see the company's response and understand what happened there, and determine our enforcement response to that before we will make a decision on the license. Thank you. Thank you again for everyone coming tonight.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Sorry, I can't actually read and hand a card to anyone at the same time. So Tiana passed me a note. This is a good reminder. I think one of the questions was, what do we do if we feel like we're having health symptoms, right? What do we do if we're concerned about our health? Certainly for anyone that is experiencing any sort of health symptom, whether you believe it to be related to the facility or other air quality issues, or not, obviously consult with your doctor. But we do have our colleagues at the Department of Health and Human Services, and they have a hotline that gets you directly to toxicologists. If you are concerned that whether related to this or related to anything in the environment, if you're concerned that some sort of environmental exposure is affecting your health, that hotline is 1-800-MY-TOXIC, like MI, like the state of Michigan, and then the word toxic. You call that number, it gets you directly to a toxicologist, and you can talk through your concerns, and they can give you guidance on how to address that. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night. And again, our staff are here, happy to have one-on-one conversations, answer more of your questions, or take more concerns. Thank you.
This